The dining room at Mom's house felt smaller every Sunday, probably because my brother Marcus's ego kept expanding to fill more space. At 34, he'd appointed himself the family's financial advisor, real estate expert, and general know-it-all about everyone else's life choices. "So, Sophia," Marcus said, cutting into his pot roast with theatrical precision, "still renting that little apartment in Riverside?" I nodded, taking another bite of mashed potatoes. Mom had outdone herself with dinner as usual. "You know," Marcus continued, "at 29 most people are thinking about building equity. Real estate. Property ownership. Adult things." My sister-in-law Jennifer giggled. "Marcus bought our house when he was 26. We've already gained $200,000 in equity." "250 actually," Marcus corrected proudly. "That's what happens when you invest wisely instead of throwing money away on rent." I kept eating quietly. This was familiar territory. "Sophia, honey," Mom interjected gently, "Marcus does have a point. Rent money is just gone. When you own, you're building something." "I understand the concept," I said. Marcus laughed. "Do you though? Because you've been in that same apartment for 3 years. 3 years of rent payments that could have been mortgage payments. You've probably thrown away $60,000 by now." "Actually, 72,000, I corrected automatically, then immediately regretted giving him ammunition. 72,000. Marcus threw his hands up. "Sophia, that's a down payment on a house." Jennifer nodded enthusiastically. "We could help you look. I know a great realtor." "I appreciate the offer," I said, "but I'm happy where I am." Marcus set down his fork. "Stop playing house, Sophia. You're not 22 anymore. You'll never afford real estate if you keep wasting money on rent." The words hit exactly the way he intended. Stop playing house. Like my life was some childish game instead of deliberate choices I'd made for very specific reasons. "Real estate isn't for everyone," I said quietly. "It's for everyone who wants to build wealth," Marcus shot back. "But you have to actually try. You have to take risks. You can't just hide in your little rental apartment forever." Dad finally spoke up. "Marcus, leave your sister alone." "Dad, I'm trying to help her. Someone needs to give her a reality check." Marcus was getting animated now, the way he always did when he thought he was winning an argument. "Sophia makes decent money at that tech company. She could qualify for a mortgage. But she's too scared to commit." "I'm not scared," I said. "Then what's the excuse? Bad credit? No savings? Or are you just content throwing money away forever?" I looked around the table. Mom was trying to change the subject by offering more bread. Dad was studying his plate like it contained the secrets of the universe. Jennifer was watching Marcus with adoring eyes, clearly impressed by his financial wisdom. "No excuse," I said finally. "I just prefer flexibility." Marcus laughed, not his real laugh but the condescending one he'd perfected in high school. "Flexibility. That's what people say when they can't afford commitment. Sophia, you're almost 30. At some point you need to grow up and invest in your future." "Maybe I have," I said quietly. "Have what? Invested in your future? How?" "By paying someone else's mortgage instead of your own." I took a sip of water, buying myself time. These family dinners had become increasingly difficult over the past year, ever since Marcus had become a homeowner and appointed himself the expert on everyone else's financial decisions. "Marcus," I said carefully, "what if I told you I was happy with my current situation?" "I'd say you're lying to yourself. Nobody chooses to throw away $72,000 unless they don't have better options." Jennifer leaned forward. "Sophia, are you worried about qualifying? Because Marcus knows lenders who work with people who have challenges." "Challenges?" As if my financial situation was some kind of disability. "I don't have challenges qualifying for anything," I said. "Then why are you still renting?" Marcus demanded. "It literally makes no sense. Unless..." He paused dramatically. "Unless you can't actually afford a down payment and you're too proud to admit it." The table went quiet. Even Mom stopped fussing with the bread basket. "Is that it?" Marcus continued, his voice getting gentler in that fake concerned way that was somehow worse than his condescension. "Sophia, if you need help with a down payment, we're family. I could maybe lend you." "I don't need a loan," I interrupted. "Then what's stopping you? I mean really, what's the actual reason you're choosing to stay poor when you could be building wealth?" choosing to stay poor. The phrase hung in the air like smoke. I looked at my brother, really looked at him. Marcus, who'd bought his first house with money from Dad's business connections. Marcus, who worked in pharmaceutical sales and made good money but acted like he'd built an empire. Marcus, who genuinely believed that homeownership made him more successful than everyone else. You really want to know? I asked. Yes. I want to understand why my intelligent sister is making such poor financial decisions. I set down my fork and folded my hands in my lap. The reason I haven't bought a house, Marcus, is because I already own the building I live in. Silence. Very funny, Marcus said after a moment. And the building next to it, I continued. And the one across the street. Actually, I own the entire block. More silence. Jennifer laughed nervously. Sophia, that's impossible. I finished. Marcus, what's my address? What? My address. Where do I live? Marcus looked confused. 415 Riverside Avenue. Right. And where do you live? 422 Riverside Avenue. Why? Because we live on the same block, Marcus. Have for 3 years. And you're about to learn something very interesting about your landlord. The color started draining from Marcus's face. You see, I continued conversationally, when I was 26, younger than you when you bought your house, I started acquiring investment properties. Small buildings at first, then larger ones. 3 years ago, I bought the entire Riverside block. Dead silence. 12 buildings total. 36 units. Including the townhouse you're renting. Marcus's mouth opened and closed like a fish. The building I live in? I don't pay rent because I own it. I live in the penthouse unit, which has been completely renovated with custom everything. But I kept it modest from the outside because I didn't want to attract attention. Jennifer was staring at me like I'd sprouted wings. Marcus, I said gently, I'm not throwing away money on rent. I'm collecting it. From you. That's not possible, Marcus stammered. My landlord is Riverside Property Management, which is a subsidiary of Meridian Holdings, which is owned by STC Properties, which is my company. Sophia Thompson Company. STC. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Every month for 3 years, I continued, you've been paying me $3,000 in rent. Plus utilities. Plus the pet deposit for your dog. Plus the parking fee for your second car. Marcus's face had gone completely white. The funny thing is, I said, you're actually one of my better tenants. Always pay on time, take care of the property. Though I did have to charge you for that party damage last year. Mom found her voice first. Sophia, you own Marcus's house? Townhouse, I corrected. And yes. Along with every other residential and commercial property on the block. The coffee shop, the dry cleaner, the little market, I own all of it. But your job, Jennifer said weakly. You work at a tech company. I do. I'm the CTO of a software development firm. We specialize in property management systems, which is how I got interested in real estate in the first place. I started with one small building, learned the business, and kept expanding. Marcus finally found his voice. This is insane. You can't own. How much where did you get the money? The same place you got your down payment, Marcus. I worked for it. The difference is I started investing at 22 instead of talking about it. I pulled out my phone and opened an app. Would you like to see your payment history? You've paid me $108,000 over 3 years. Plus fees. Marcus grabbed the phone, scrolling through the payment records. His name was there over and over. Marcus Thompson, Unit 7B, $3,000. This is impossible, he whispered. Dad, I said, remember when I asked to borrow $50,000 when I was 22? You said I was too young for that kind of debt. Dad nodded slowly. I saved it instead. Took me 2 years, but I bought my first building with cash. No mortgage, no payments, just rental income. I used that income to buy the next building. Then the next. How many properties do you own? Mom asked. Currently, 47 buildings across the city. About 200 units total, plus commercial space. I paused. The portfolio is worth approximately $18 million. The silence was deafening. 18 million? Jennifer squeaked. That's just the real estate. There's also the software company, some stock investments, and a few other ventures. Marcus was still staring at my phone like it might change what he was seeing. The irony, I said, is that you've been lecturing me about real estate while paying me rent for 3 years. Every month you've been building my equity instead of your own. You should have told us, Mom said. Why? So Marcus could spend Sunday dinners explaining real estate to the person who owns his house. This is crazy, Marcus muttered. You live in a studio apartment. I live in a penthouse that I design myself. It's minimalist, not small. There's a difference. My phone started ringing. I glanced at the caller ID, Riverside Property Management. Excuse me, I said, answering the call. Sophia Thompson. Ms. Thompson, this is Jenny from the property office. We have a situation with Unit 7B. The tenant is 3 days late on rent and he's not responding to our notices. I looked at Marcus, who was listening to every word. 3 days late. I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. That's unusual for Mr. Thompson. He's usually very punctual. Marcus's eyes went wide. Would you like us to proceed with the standard late fee? Jenny asked. Let me think about that. I'll call you back. I hung up and looked at Marcus. Interesting timing. You're 3 days late on rent. I forgot. I've been busy with work and... Marcus, I said gently, the rent was due Friday. It's Monday. The late fee kicks in tomorrow. How much is the late fee? Jennifer asked nervously. $200. Standard across all my properties. Marcus looked like he might throw up. But, I continued, since we're family, I can make an exception. This time. You'd waive the fee? I'd consider it. If you apologize. Apologize. For the past 3 years of lectures about my financial decisions. For calling me financially irresponsible while I've been your landlord. For suggesting I need to grow up when I've built a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. The room was so quiet I could hear the grandfather clock in the hallway. Sophia, Marcus said slowly, I had no idea. Obviously. I'm sorry. I mean you never said anything and you live so simply and you assumed that simple meant unsuccessful. He nodded miserably. Marcus, I live simply because I choose to. Not because I have to. There's a difference. A big difference, Dad said quietly. Sophia, I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry I didn't support your first investment. It worked out, I said. I learned to be self-reliant. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and smiled. Actually, speaking of investments, I have some news. Remember the old Morrison building downtown? The one that's been empty for 5 years. Everyone nodded. It was a landmark. A beautiful Art Deco building that had been declining for decades. I bought it last month. We're converting it into luxury condos. Pre-sales start next week. How much did that cost? Mom asked. $4.2 million. But the projected profit after renovation and sales is $12 million. Jennifer made a small choking sound. The interesting thing, I continued, is that the city is so excited about the project, they're fast-tracking all the permits. Historic renovation, green energy systems, affordable housing component. It hits all their priorities. Affordable housing? Marcus asked. 20% of the units will be reserved for moderate-income buyers. It's the right thing to do and it gets us tax incentives. I looked around the table at my family's shocked faces. The point is, I said, I didn't need to buy a house to build equity. I built equity by buying houses. Lots of them. But why didn't you tell us? Mom asked again. Because I wanted to see if you'd respect my choices without knowing my net worth. I wanted to know if you'd support me as a person, not just as a success story. The implications of that settled over the room like a heavy blanket. We should have supported you anyway, Dad said quietly. Yes, you should have. Marcus finally looked up from my phone. Sophia, I owe you more than an apology. I've been an ass. You have. A huge ass. For years. You've been quietly building an empire while I've been lecturing you about buying a starter home. Pretty much. He ran his hands through his hair. How do you even? Where do you go from here? You're 29 and you're worth more than most people make in their entire lives. I keep building. There's a shopping center in Westfield I'm looking at. And I'm considering expanding into commercial office space. Jesus. My phone rang again. This time the caller ID showed my lawyer's office. I should take this, I said, stepping away from the table. Sophia, it's David. I have news about the Morrison project. The city council voted unanimously to approve our tax incentive package. You're looking at an additional $2 million in savings. That's great news. There's more. 3 other developers want to partner with you on similar projects. Historic renovation is hot right now, and your reputation for quality work is spreading. I walked back toward the dining room where my family was sitting in stunned silence. Also, David continued, Forbes wants to do a feature on young real estate entrepreneurs. They're particularly interested in your affordable housing initiatives. Forbes. I could practically hear Marcus's brain exploding. I'll think about it, I said. Thanks, David. I hung up and returned to my seat. More good news. Mom asked. The Morrison project just got more profitable. And Forbes wants to interview me. Marcus put his head in his hands. Forbes. It's not a big deal, I said. I prefer to stay out of the spotlight. Not a big deal? Jennifer laughed, but it sounded slightly hysterical. Sophia, you're going to be in Forbes magazine. Maybe. I haven't decided yet. I looked at my brother who was still staring at his hands. Marcus, I said gently, I want you to know, your rent isn't going up. You're a good tenant and I value having family in my buildings. He looked up with grateful eyes. Thank you. But I also want you to understand something. Success isn't just about homeownership. It's about making smart decisions, taking calculated risks, and working toward long-term goals. He nodded. You own one house. I own 47 buildings. We're both successful, just in different ways. Incredibly different ways, he said weakly. The difference is, I didn't spend 3 years telling you that your choices were wrong. The point hit home. I could see it in his face. Sophia, Mom said, we're proud of you. We should have been proud of you before we knew about your success, but we are proud of you. Thank you. And we're sorry we didn't see what you were building. I forgive you. All of you. Marcus finally smiled, his real smile this time, not the condescending one. Can I ask you something? He said. Sure. The day I moved in 3 years ago, did you know I was going to be your tenant? I grinned. Marcus, I bought the building after you signed the lease. I specifically targeted that block because I knew you lived there. His mouth fell open. You bought 12 buildings because I lived on that street? I bought 12 buildings because it was a good investment. But knowing my brother would be paying me rent? That was just a bonus. Everyone laughed. Real laughter this time, not nervous or condescending. So what happens now? Jennifer asked. How we finish dinner, I said. And maybe Marcus stops giving me financial advice. Deal, Marcus said quickly. But can I ask for some advice instead? What kind of advice? Real estate advice. Investment advice. How to build wealth without lecturing my sister about her poor decisions advice. I smiled. I think we can work something out. As we finished dinner, the conversation shifted to my projects, my plans, my vision for sustainable urban development. My family asked thoughtful questions instead of making assumptions. They listened instead of lecturing. It felt like the first real family dinner we'd had in years. Later, as I was leaving, Marcus walked me to my car. A modest Honda Civic that I'd bought specifically because it was reliable and inconspicuous. Sophia, he said, I'm sorry. Not just for tonight but for being a condescending jerk for 3 years. Apology accepted. I have a confession. What's that? I always thought you were smarter than me. That's why I tried so hard to find areas where I could be the expert. Real estate seemed like something I understood and you didn't. And now. He laughed. Now I realize I was renting from the expert. Marcus, you're smart. You're successful in your own right. You don't need to tear others down to build yourself up. I know that now. He paused, looking at my modest car, my simple clothes, my understated jewelry. Can I ask why you live so normally? I mean, you could afford anything. I considered the question. Because I learned early that people treat you differently when they know you have money. They either want something from you or they assume you don't deserve it, or they try to prove they're better than you. Like I did. Like you did. I wanted to be loved for who I am, not what I own. Marcus nodded slowly. And we failed that test. At first. But you can retake it. How? By treating me the same way you would if I was still renting that studio apartment. By caring about my happiness, not my net worth. I can do that. Good. Because you're still my brother, Marcus. Rich or poor, I want you in my life. He hugged me then. A real hug, not the awkward side squeeze we'd been doing for years. I love you, Sophia. And I'm proud of you. I love you too. As I drove home to my penthouse, my beautiful minimalist penthouse that I'd designed to be a peaceful sanctuary, I reflected on the evening. It had been satisfying to finally reveal the truth, but more importantly, it felt like we might actually become a real family again. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Rent will be paid tomorrow. With an apology card. I smiled and texted back. Family discount applies. No late fee this time. 3 months later, Marcus started his own real estate investment journey. I helped him buy his first rental property, not because he needed the money but because he genuinely wanted to learn. He was a good student and, more importantly, a good brother. The Forbes article came out 6 months later. The headline read, "The Quiet Mogul, How One Woman Built an $18 million Real Estate Empire Before Age 30. Marcus framed it and hung it in his office. Not because he was proud of my money but because he was proud of my vision. And every month, like clockwork, his rent payment arrived on time. Sometimes with a little note. Thanks for being patient with your most embarrassing tenant. Because that's what family does. We pay our debts, learn from our mistakes, and build each other up instead of tearing each other down. Even when, especially when, we're paying rent to our little sister.